for tonight. So like I said, for those who don't know, John is an author of the book Decoding Firearms, and he's also a writer for Ammoland News. I think, first of all, if you haven't checked out Decoding Firearms, please check it out. I have a link in the description for you to go to Amazon to pick up a copy of it yourself. It's on Kindle, and it is on paperback as well. Now, do you have, are you on Audible as well?
I'm not on Audible. That's something that I'm toying with, doing an audio book. It's just, do you want to hear me narrate a book on gun safety and use? I don't know. There's illustrations in there and describing them, and I'm not too sure if an Audible will go over well or not, but people keep bringing it up, so it's something that I'm batting around.
Yep, I'm actually going to go screen share at the moment. For those who are live, please bear with me. I am still working with a very laggy connection. I don't understand the past couple of weeks. I think the big tech is finally starting to they're definitely starting to kick in, I believe. Okay, so let's make sure I get this just so you guys can see what's going on. I'm gonna bring this in. Hopefully you can see everything. Okay, awesome. So we are going live. Hopefully they're coming through. Again, lucky connection. I do apologize. It is here. Decoding Firearms right here. I love cover. That is extremely amazing. So let's get into it, John. How did you start writing this book? Like, what is your background? The book is essentially I would say a new person's guide to owning firearms, some safety, general firearm safety terms. It's a very from what I've read, I have kind of just like flipped through it just to get a general idea. The illustrations that you have in there are very well done. It's literally your firearms with the abundance of new firearms owners in the past, say 9 to 10 months. A book like this, I hope it's doing very well, especially in today's day and age. But let's take you off screen share real quick. Now, what is your background? How did you come about writing the book?
So originally, I didn't set out to plan to write a book on firearms. I am a firearms trainer, NRA certified, and also a USCCA certified trainer. And I was working on my own class that I had written. And while I was working on that class, I was also editing somebody else's book. And when I was doing his book, I had a couple of different ideas and things that I would have done differently. Fast forward to me finishing the class, I got the class done, and I decided that I wanted to have my own material to hand out with for the class. So I gathered my thoughts together, and I figured I would come up with a pamphlet or something like that. Well, by the time I got done putting together the material that I wanted in the book, it turned out to be a 266-page long book, and that's how we ended up where we are today.
Awesome. So you said you're a USCCA and NRA firearms instructor. I'm guessing now, where you being in New Jersey, where do you teach in New Jersey? Do you teach where do you teach? Because I'm not just trying to point this out here. You have a stronger Boston accent than I do. I know we talked before. You originally, I know what you do by trade. He has been on Riding Shotgun with Charlie. For anybody who hasn't checked out Riding Shotgun with Charlie, he had a great conversation with him and Charlie. But he did attend Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and so right. I can pick up on your Boston accent very strongly now.
It's probably mostly my wife's fault. So I was born and raised in Jersey. Then I left to go to Massachusetts while I went to the academy. And then I spent a little bit of extra time. I lived in Fall River for a little bit in Fall Rive. So I definitely blame this on my wife because she's from Massachusetts. And so she's an expatriate. She's down here living in Jersey. So I'm sure a lot of her has rubbed off on me for sure.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of the short, quick and dirty on the history there.
Nice, nice. Now let's get right into it. Now, in terms of decoding firearms, what was like in obviously it's geared towards new gun owners. What do you think is the first thing that you got to stress enough with your book? Do you feel that like from what I've read, I've really enjoyed it. It really, touches on, the fundamentals of safety, handling your gun, make sure there's you can't stress enough the amount of safety you have to have with firearms being a new gun owner. I mean, me working in the shop every day, I'm seeing a lot of new gun owners come in and either they know a little bit or they've never actually touched a gun in their life. They just got their license. How explain to the viewers that haven't read the book or haven't checked out the book yet, how do you start off in decoding firearms? What is your first step? Do you start off with safety, the mentality of owning a gun? Let's discuss it so I don't have to give it away to the folks.
Sure. So I broke it up into 15 different chapters, and chapters 1 through 7 are the get you up to and through going to the range. Chapter number 1 focuses heavily on the safety rules, and I go into depth on a lot of that. And then the other chapters lead you up to chapter 7, which would be chapter 7 being the all right, now you're going to go to the range and shoot. So 2 through 6, we go through how the firearms operate, how they function, and I cover handguns, I cover revolvers, pistols, shotguns, rifles, a little bit of everything, pump action, lever action, semi-automatic. I really tried to put it as much in there to make it as comprehensive as possible. So we get you past that, then we talk a little bit about range rules and different range rules that you might run into, as well as then rolling into the fundamentals of shooting. So I break everything down by fundamental. So in the case of talking about rifle and handgun shooting, there are some shared fundamentals. So I focused on some of the shared fundamentals there, such as your breath control and your trigger control, very similar for rifle and handgun shooting. So I break down the fundamentals, we talk about that, and then we get you to the range. And in the chapter talking about shooting, I kind of write around a guide to your first shots. And then chapter 8 is pretty much a review of the book, and then it talks a little bit about further opportunities, things that you can do to learn more about firearms, different sports that you could partake in. And then I also talk a little bit about activism. And I think it's important to note that the book isn't a political book, so I try not to inject too much rhetoric in there that would push somebody away on a political level. It's the book is about gun safety and how to use a gun, but I do touch on activism and the importance there. So that's chapters 1 through 8, and then chapter 9 through 14 are expansions on chapter 1, and I took different areas from chapter 1 and I kind of expanded further on them to give you a more in-depth look at some of these rules. So for example, we all know we have to put on our eyes and ears when we go to the range and shoot, right? You got to put your hearing protection on and your eye protection. Well, I have a whole chapter that I talk about PPE, personal protective equipment, and I talk about safety glasses. I talk about the ANSI ratings. I talk about the noise reduction rating on hearing protection, and I get into the nitty gritty. So if you really want to get the in-depth look into some of those subjects, chapters 9 through 14 take you deeper into those kind of subjects like lead exposure, chemical exposure, like I said, PPE. There's a little bit of a small section on gun cleaning. I don't spend a lot of time on gun cleaning, and the reason I don't is because with your firearms manual should give you a lot of what you need to clean your firearm, and really that's where you should be looking for your ultimate guidance. So I talk about firearm cleaning conceptually and what you would do, what you would need. So those are the kind of things that are in those chapters. And then chapter 15, I do talk about the Second Amendment. And again, I try to keep it apolitical, but there is the but, of course, there is the sentiment in there that there are factions of people politically that do want to strip the citizens of the right to keep and bear arms. So there's no finger pointing. However, there is the notion of, yes, there are politicians and groups that do want to disarm us as a population. So the Second Amendment chapter, that's chapter 15. And then from there, I have a couple of appendixes where I have different resources. You could go for more information. I have a full glossary with a ton of different terms in there as well. And yeah, just different resources. So to show everyone, this is the book, what it looks like. It's 266 pages. So it's not, and you can see some of the illustrations there. You know, you were talking about the illustrations. They're all original for the book, with the exception of a handful. I took all of the photographs myself. About, I'd say 90% of those photographs I took, did all the editing on them and whatnot. So with the Kindle copy, you have those in full color, and then in the paperback, they're in black and white. So that's kind of the rundown on the book.
Awesome, awesome. And I think it's, you know, such a great idea, because me personally, when I started getting into firearms, you know, we had so many different people giving up pamphlets and brochures, and most of the time, 90% of the time, students are just going to chuck that. They might read it on the car ride home or something like that. But you have a physical copy where it gives you a reference guide, and the way you have the book set up is it's categorical, and it gets you to certain stages as a new gun owner, which I really feel is something that most, you know, in today's day and age, everyone thinks like, oh man, I'm not going to read a book for this. I can go check this video out, or take a class here. There are still certain people out there that like actually reading, you know, and getting the information. Me, I still collect different actual paper copies of any type of literature regarding firearms, whether it be cleaning, you know, just training implements, anything. I have something physical that I can look at, can help a lot of people. And I think the book, Decoding Firearms, is definitely set up in that way. I did, from what I did read, I did like the whole, you know, you focus on safety, getting yourself. I got to the point where I got to like chapter 3, I believe, just kind of like not thoroughly reading, but like checking everything out. And it was very well done. I